This Day in Sports History. Well, hey there. Welcome back to another edition of This Day in Sports History. It's December 27th, and on this day throughout sports history, we had a future Hall of Famer taking a ride on the struggle bus. Another future Hall of Famer became the all-time rushing TD king, and Tim Hardaway also set a record on this day, though I am guessing he would rather not have his name next to it. Those stories plus a non-sports fun fact about the rarest blood type in the world. I'll get started right after this. This episode is brought to you by the Sterling Soap Company. Sterling Soap is 100% natural and with a variety of bath soaps, shave soaps, beard balm, lotions, cologne, and many more personal care products in a large variety of scents, you're sure to find something that's perfect for you or that special someone in your life. Check them out at sterlingsoap.com. So let's start with what happened on this day in 1953. And it was an NFL championship game between the Cleveland Browns and the Detroit Lions in a rematch of the previous year's 1952 championship. And of the 4 times these two teams met for the title in the 50s, this was by far the best game. By this point in his career, Otto Graham was a 5-time All-Pro, and he'd had a decent year in 53. Not his best, but decent. He'd led the league in passing yardage and a few other categories, but on this day, he picked a bad day to have a bad day. Graham completed only 2 passes for a total of 20 yards. The Browns QB coughed up a fumble on the first drive that led to a Lions touchdown, and then threw an interception later in the half that led to 3 more points. Things were so bad, Graham, a future Hall of Famer, was benched by Coach Paul Brown because of his mistakes and ineffectiveness. The weather was partially to blame. It had been raining in Detroit enough to make the field at Briggs Stadium a bit tough to find footing on. Also, the air was pretty dry, which made Graham's hands chapped, and he couldn't hold on to the ball well enough to throw it. But despite all of those errors, they were able to manufacture a Lou Groza field goal after a Lions turnover to make it 10-3 Lions at the half. The Browns tied it up in the second half on a Chick Jagady 9-yard run, and then after 2 more Groza field goals, they led 16-10 with just over 4 minutes to play. Jimmy Doran was a defensive specialist for the Lions, but after an injury to right end Leon Hart, Doran was called on to play offense as well. He'd only caught 6 passes prior to this game, but he became a favorite target of Detroit quarterback Bobby Layne on the final offensive drive. First, he caught a 17-yard out route. Then Doran reeled in a 13-yarder over the middle to convert a 3rd down into another first. After each of those catches, Doran came back to the huddle, and he let Layne know that he could beat his man long. Now, Layne believed him, but he told him to just be patient. Another out route ate a little more clock up. Fans were getting a little anxious, but Layne had the situation under control. With under 2 minutes to play, he finally told Doran to go long.
Seconds left in the game. First down, 10 yards to go at the Cleveland 33-yard line. Here comes Layne and the Lions out of the huddle. Bobby Layne barking him out. He has a spread formation, has his back split, double right. He's dropping back to throw. He looks left. Now he's going long. A high, soft pass. Doran is open. He got it! Detroit scores! Layne and Jim Doran, and it's a 16-16 tie. And these Detroit fans are going crazy at Briggs.
So after feigning like he was going to block, Doran sprinted past Warren Lahr and had 4 steps on him by the time Layne's pass settled into his arms in the end zone to tie the game. It was Doran's first and only touchdown that year. Doak Walker kicked the extra point through, and with a little over 2 minutes left to play, the Lions led by 1 point. Another Graham interception snuffed any chance to find an opportunity for Lou the Toe Groza to kick another game winner like he did back in 1950. There were a combined 8 turnovers in the game between both teams, so it wasn't a pretty one by any definition. It was Detroit's 2nd straight NFL title and 6th straight win over the Browns. The Browns would get their revenge the following year. On this day in 1998, Emmit Smith became the all-time rushing touchdowns leader in the NFL. The Dallas Cowboys were closing out the regular season against division rival Washington, their playoff spot already secured atop the NFC East. The Cowboys' running game, and especially Emmett, had been faltering down the stretch, though. A loss on Thanksgiving to the Minnesota Vikings was the first of 3 straight losses. The next week, Smith could not even crack double digits rushing against the Saints. He gained just 42 the following week against the Chiefs, and then finally broke through with a 25-carry, 125-yard performance in a win against the Eagles. But Emmett had not scored a rushing touchdown in more than a month when they faced off against Washington on this day. Trailing 7-3 in the second quarter, Emmett took a handoff at the 1, and he crossed easily into the end zone for touchdown number 124. Here's how it sounded that day with Mike Patrick and Joe Theismann calling the action for ESPN.
First and goal. Emmett for the record. Got it. A standing ovation. Nobody deserves it more.
And he told us that he really wasn't thinking about it. Look at that. Are you kidding me?
Everybody else was.
That's so great. One of the real class acts in this game, accomplishing what he just did.
That moved him past Marcus Allen on the NFL's all-time rushing TDs list. He wasn't done for the day, and certainly not for his career. He scored later in the game for number 125 as the Cowboys beat Washington 23-7. And just like we talked about with Jerry Rice breaking and then crushing the all-time receiving TDs record a few weeks ago, Emmett played another 6 seasons and put the new mark in the stratosphere, ending his career with 164 rushing touchdowns. LaDainian Tomlinson is now second on the list with 145, and the closest active player is Derrick Henry, who has 115. Of course, 4 seasons later, Emmett would eclipse Walter Payton and become the all-time leading rusher in the NFL. But on this day in 1998, Emmit Smith became the rushing touchdown king. On this day in 1974, Ohio State's Archie Griffin won the first of his 2 Heisman trophies, and many would say it was the only one he truly deserved. In 1974, Griffin rushed for 1,620 yards, averaged nearly 7 yards a carry, and he scored 12 rushing touchdowns. He secured 483 first-place votes, and he beat out USC's Anthony Davis and Oklahoma's Joe Washington for the honor. Now, let's talk about what the deal was in 1975, when Griffin became the only player to win the Heisman a second time. In that season, he scored only 4 touchdowns for a team that scored nearly 30 points a game in 75. He had 300 less yards in 75 than he did back in 74. His per-carry average was lower as well. Now, consider that the guy who finished second in 75, Cal's Chuck Muncie, had fewer carries but more yards, and he scored 13 times. Southern Cal's Ricky Bell had nearly 500 more yards than Griffin, and he also had 13 touchdowns. Pitt's Tony Dorsett finished 4th in the voting, and he had the highest per-carry average in the nation that season at 6.8 yards a carry, and he found the end zone 11 times. Now, the Buckeyes were 11-0 throughout the regular season and ranked number 1 in the second half of the season before a loss in the Rose Bowl dropped them to 4th in the AP. So the argument could be made that Griffin made the 75 team nearly unbeatable. But consider this. Griffin had a teammate in 75, Pete Johnson, that scored 25 touchdowns that year, 24 of those on the ground, and he came close to being a 1,000-yard rusher. And he did not even get a sniff in the Heisman voting. Griffin was a between-the-tens runner in 75, apparently, and Johnson was the one who punched it in from a yard or 2 out. Or, as I read on a message board somewhere, Archie took the girl to the prom, but Johnson kissed her goodnight. On this night in 1991, Tim Hardaway set an NBA record for futility when he took 17 shots and missed every one of them, which is an unfortunate record for misses without a make. This was Hardaway and his Golden State Warriors on the road at Minnesota. Now, at the time, and maybe it's still this way, but in 91, the visiting locker room in Minnesota was painted bright yellow. Tim was not a fan of that color, and he heard somebody say that the color was supposed to be calming. Well, it worked on Tim, who missed everything, even layups. But the rest of his teammates picked him up The Warriors won in overtime, 106-102, behind 36 points from Chris Mullin. Now, Hardaway did not let this game bother him too much. He came out in his next game 3 days later and hit 13 of 21 shots. That's 62%, if you were wondering, and he dropped 30 on the Lakers. And in 2012, the New York Knicks signed Jeremy Lin to a contract. Lin's sanity would not start for more than a month, but this put the train on the tracks, heading in that direction. Time now for today's That's Got Nothing to Do with Sports fun fact. The rarest blood type in the world is HH. Only 4 people per million actually have it. It's mostly found in India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, and in some parts of the Middle East region. People with this type of blood are strongly encouraged to bank their own blood in case they need it in the future. This has been an original Thrive Suite production.